Hello, what's up, YouTube? Welcome to my channel, MMA Normie, and this is MMA Normie Podcast number 5. So, today we are going to have a very short podcast because I was really under the weather this week. That's why this took so long to come out. I'm going to mainly discuss the last week's main event, Max Holloway versus Yair Rodriguez. I have so much to discuss from that fight alone. I mean, that was a fantastic fight. I loved it. I'm sure you guys all loved it as well. And we're going to look back at this fight, look back at what both the fighters did well, what did they do wrong, and all that stuff. I would quickly go over the main card if I feel like it. I don't know about that really, but we'll see. We'll see. And we'll quickly preview next week's main card if time allows us. I'm kind of in a hurry today, if you can guess, but still, first let's get down with it. Let's discuss UFC Fight Night, Holloway versus Rodriguez. We are going to start off with the main event, Max Holloway versus Yair Rodriguez. Max Holloway won this fight, a unanimous decision, 48-47, 48-47, and won 49-46. Now, this is one of those fights where probably 49-46 is really misleading in terms of how competitive this fight was. This fight was actually competitive in every round except for round 3 and 4, which were, I think, clear Holloway rounds. Rounds 1 and 5, you can give it to Yair, but they were still close. And round 2 was basically the swing round of this fight. This was a very, very closely contested fight, and I did not expect to see the Yair Rodriguez that I saw in this fight. Last week in my podcast, I talked about I don't know what to expect from Yair Rodriguez, and that holds pretty much true because it's hard to analyze a guy who has not been active for over 2 years now. So that's a bit troubling. With Yair Rodriguez. I mean, the last thing I remember about him was his victory over Zombie, and I called it at that time. It was a fluke knockout. You can't replicate that. It's just not possible. I don't really think that was a legit knockout. I mean, it was a legit knockout. He knocked Zombie out clearly, but it's not a replicable technique, in my opinion, of course. But then again, as we will talk about in this fight, he did replicate it against Holloway. So props to him, I guess. But if you guys remember the last fight, he was pretty much losing that fight against Zombie as well, up until the last second of that fight when we knocked Zombie out in the 5th round. Literally at the last second. If Zombie didn't charge at him, I mean, Zombie just would have won the decision easy. So that's my recollection of Rodriguez. And before that, I'm sure we all remember the ass whooping he received at the hands of Frankie Edgar. I mean, Frankie just gave him a lesson in mixed martial arts. So to look at that guy and what he can do, but then again, mind the fact that he hasn't been active for 2 years, so we don't know what he has been doing last 2 years. Has he been improving? Is he stale? And if he is improving, then how much ring rust is going to affect him? All that stuff we just could not guess before the fight. It was very hard to predict, and that is one of the reasons why I was so hesitant to discuss what Rodriguez was going to do. As a rule of thumb, I did say that Rodriguez's kicks are going to give Max Holloway trouble if Rodriguez can implement it. That was a big thing. I mean, it's very, very hard to implement a game plan against somebody like Max Holloway. He just, I don't know, keeps coming back at you non-stop, full on pressure. So it's very difficult to implement a very intelligent gameplay against a guy like that. And on top of that, Max Holloway himself is extremely intelligent in his implementation of his game. So I was really impressed with Yair Rodriguez, especially considering the fact that he has been coming off a 2 years long layoff, and to come out of that looking like this, I mean, this is just insane. He looked great. Max Holloway, I think a point that most people missed in this fight is that Max Holloway is improving. I know you guys probably looked at this fight, looked at this performance, and then looked at his previous fight against Cater and said, you know what, he looked better against Cater than Rodriguez, and that's true. But there's a but here. Holloway showed some new dimensions to his game, and he showed some tricks which he is clearly working on in the gym, and he was trying to implement it against Yair Rodriguez live during the fight. And I think the fact that Max Holloway doesn't spar kind of worked against him in this fight, because he was trying to implement a few new techniques which I will go over. He did not succeed in finishing those techniques, but he definitely succeeded in setting them up. So don't be surprised if in near future you see a couple of new techniques from Max Holloway. I mean, he's only 29 years old. He's still learning. He's still adding new weapons to his arsenal. I mean, to see that this guy has already been a world champion, already been an extremely successful world champion, and now he is campaigning for it again. And to see him adding new wrinkles to his game is just insane. This guy is another level, clearly. And as far as Yair Rodriguez goes, let's start with the first round. I think Yair did one of the things very brilliantly, is that he started kicking Max Holloway's legs, and you can see it from the first round itself. Max Holloway does not check kicks very well. He does not deal with leg kicks very well. One of the adjustments I think Max Holloway made over the course of this fight was that he would get kicked in the leg, and it will clearly, throw him out of his usual stance and put him into more of a bladed stance. So from that bladed stance, Max Holloway straight up throws a long jab, and if you're in a bladed stance, it's easier to implement boxing combinations. So Yair Rodriguez inadvertently would kick Holloway into a boxing stance, and off of that stance, Holloway will intercept Yair with a hard jab, and you can see throughout the fight a couple of times, Holloway kind of knocked Rodriguez's head back. I mean, those were landing, which was very impressive considering Holloway does not really throw with knockout power. But he was, snapping Rodriguez's head back. So that was impressive. Immediately he'd get kicked in the leg. He'll throw his jab, snap, Rodriguez's head back, and take 2 steps, close the gap, throw his right hand, right straight. And that was working for him throughout the fight. That was one of the adjustments he made to getting leg kicked. But overall, Rodriguez was clearly the faster kicker. He was kicking Holloway really fast, and if you go back to the fight, you will see, I think it was in the second round or was it the third, I can't exactly remember right now. Rodriguez took Holloway down once, and if you go back and watch the tape, it was Rodriguez faking a leg kick, and Holloway actually clearly picked his leg up to check it, and Rodriguez immediately went for a takedown. And since Holloway was on one leg, he could not balance himself. That was impressive from Rodriguez. He realized he could, hurt Holloway with leg kicks, and once he did that, he used that leg kick as a feint to set up a takedown, which was really brilliant on Rodriguez's part, actually. And another very impressive adjustment that Rodriguez made was that he was trying to sidekick Holloway's knees, and Holloway was kind of dealing with it relatively well. He would get out of the way, he will circle out of the way. So you'll see once or twice what Rodriguez does is that he will take a big step faking a side kick. And if you miss the side kick, basically what happens is that you cover a lot of distance, you go a lot of forward. So he will fake that side kick to cover a huge distance. I'm sorry. And once he does cover that distance, he puts his right foot on the outside from southpaw stance against Holloway's orthodox and slams a big left kick to the liver of Holloway from southpaw stance. That was a brilliant setup as well from Rodriguez. And a lot of the times you can see whenever Holloway was getting his combinations going, Rodriguez will immediately fire back with punches, and he throws hard. You can clearly see it. He throws his whole body into it, and he was able to land on Holloway a couple of times with that. It seems like Max Holloway does not move his head as much. I mean, he could implement a bit more head movement, I guess. He is very good about parrying punches though. He would parry, move his head to the outside, and then start his combination off of it. He has done that a couple of times during this fight, but overall he does not move his head enough, I think. And that was one thing that Rodriguez was clearly able to exploit, because he would just throw back at Holloway at the same time Holloway is throwing his combinations at Rodriguez, and Rodriguez has the longer reach, so he was kind of able to exploit that. That was very interesting from Rodriguez. There was an interesting adjustment that I did not see Calvin Kattar make, so that's good on Rodriguez, I guess. Pretty impressive in my opinion. And some of the things that Holloway did well was setting up the jab, obviously. I mean, Max Holloway always sets up a good jab. He set up his jab very well, and as counter to leg kicks as well, he set up his jab very well, and he did a lot of body work this fight. He would set up his jab and sometimes feint his jab, level change, and go to Rodriguez's body with his right hand. I mean, that was very, very impressive in my opinion. And you can see sometimes when Holloway would really corral Rodriguez against the cage, he would unload on Rodriguez, and a lot of those punches would go to the body. I think that's one of the things that managed to slow Rodriguez down, because he was getting hit so much. That was, in my opinion, very impressive. Holloway did great body work in this fight, especially with his hands, and he landed some hard knees on Rodriguez, which Rodriguez just took with strides. I mean, props to that guy. He can take a shot clearly, and like I said, his head snapped back a couple of times, but it looks like he could just take that punishment. And same thing with Holloway as well. I remember at one point during the fight, Holloway kind of corralled Rodriguez against the cage. Rodriguez ducked down, and as Holloway came forward to meet him, he replicated the zombie elbow, the elbow he threw against Korean Zombie. He actually landed on Holloway clean with it, and you can just see Holloway ate it and kept throwing back at Rodriguez. Holloway has, like, I don't know, insane chin. I mean, who takes an elbow like that and just no reaction whatsoever and goes back to throwing his combinations at Rodriguez? Rodriguez was clearly having a lot of trouble against the cage. Anytime Holloway managed to trap him there, Holloway was able to land good combinations. He implemented good knees in this fight at points, but he did not go back to it very frequently. And some of the new wrinkles to Holloway's game that I noticed were the Frankie Edgar special knee tap, where Holloway would, extend his left hand, his jab hand, and immediately level change and grab opponent's knee with his right hand and just push Rodriguez back to take him down to the ground. It's a very low risk takedown attempt. Even if you miss it, no problem, you will be on your feet, you can readjust yourself, and if you get it, it's a big high reward takedown. So you can see Holloway was a little bit uncomfortable with it. I think he is clearly adding that weapon to his arsenal in this training camp itself, and I think by the time his next fight rolls in, I think he will perfect this technique and he'll be able to take down more guys with this technique. He's clearly working on it. I have never seen him attempt this before. He attempted this like 2-3 times in this fight. And another one of the trips that he attempted, I thought was very interesting, was that Holloway would just raise his lead leg from southpaw, jump in, get in close, and his left hand would overhook Rodriguez's right hand. His right hand would be across Rodriguez's neck, and then he will trip Rodriguez with his own right leg. And that's very, very kickboxing style trip takedown. And I have seen someone attempt this and successfully actually trip somebody in UFC. I just can't remember who it was. I've seen this obviously being attempted many times in kickboxing, and lots of guys get that takedown. Even Sanchai, in a lot of his fights, attempts this takedown, and that guy can trip people very fast. He is a Muay Thai legend, obviously, and Holloway attempted it, but as you can see, he wasn't completely successful with it. He attempted it and he kind of abandoned it. I think this is also a new technique he is trying to add in his arsenal, and I think he will perfect this as well very in near future. So that will be an interesting addition to his takedown as well. And I think we all remember the double leg takedown that he attempted on Rodriguez. That was something I've never seen from Holloway before either. And if I have seen it, then I just can't remember when was the last time Holloway actually attempted a double leg takedown on somebody. I've seen him throughout the years, throughout his long run in featherweight, where he wasn't getting any title shots and he was just winning fights one after another. And finally, he beat Pettis to win the interim title belt. I have seen him throughout that run. I can't remember in which fight did he attempt a double leg takedown. Maybe he did, but I just can't remember off the top of my head if he double leg takedown anybody during that run. But clearly this time, one of the adjustments he made to leg kick was actually double leg takedowns. He just timed Rodriguez's leg kick, and as soon as Rodriguez threw his leg kick, Holloway just level changed, immediately shot for the takedown, and he got it. And as far as ground game goes, it's very painfully obvious that Holloway has a more matured ground game than Rodriguez. Rodriguez was able to throw some legs and try some leg locks here and there, but it wasn't clearly working. Holloway, on the other hand, was able to control Rodriguez from the top position and land some good ground and pound. It wasn't devastating, to say the least, but it was effective, and he was able to control Rodriguez for a long stretch of time on the ground as well. So Holloway has a really good ground game, which he does not really go to. And one of the times you can see when he attempted the choke, he was trying to guillotine choke, standing guillotine choke Rodriguez, and Rodriguez, in order to relieve the pressure from his neck, he had to drop down to the ground and pretty much gave up mount. Holloway followed him to the ground and took mount, and that was very impressive in my opinion. Holloway clearly has a great squeeze. He has, guillotined a couple of guys in the UFC. That is clearly one of his go-to submissions, and he pretty much locked Yair with it as well. I thought that choke was really tight, and props to Yair for surviving it. But I thought Holloway did the better ground game in both third and the fourth round. And the fifth round, I'm very impressed with Yair because he came back with adjustments to Holloway's pressure. And in my scorecard, I did give him the fifth round as well. So I scored the fight 48-47 as well. So that was a close fight. That was a very competitive fight, and I was really impressed with everything that both these men did. I mean, both of them came out with a lot of adjustments to each other's game. One of the constant adjustments that Yair made against Holloway's game was that he was throwing back with Holloway. Anytime he gets touched with anything, he would just throw back hard punches, which would stop Holloway from, snow rolling his combinations on his opponent, and stopped him from unleashing non-stop combinations on his opponents. And that was very impressive to see, especially from a guy who has been out of the cage for over 2 years, and we don't know how ring rust might affect him. It seems like it did not affect Yair that much. He gave a great account of himself. I was really impressed. I'm sure most other people were impressed as well. And with that being said, it was a very, very fun fight. I really enjoyed it, and I'm sure anyone that watched the fight enjoyed it as well. And congratulations to both men on a fight of the year contender, performance. And congratulations to Max Holloway for extending his win streak. I personally do think he needs to fight Volkanovski a third time again, because I scored the second fight for Holloway. I scored the first fight for Volkanovski. So in my head, these two guys are 1-1 and they need to settle it. I know judges scored both the fights for Volkanovski, but Max has been so dominant in this division against everyone else but Volkanovski. It's just that despite the fact that Volkanovski had 2 wins against Max, it just doesn't feel like it. And especially considering the controversial way in which Volkanovski won his last fight, I think Max's current performance just warrants another title shot. I know he's eyeing Conor McGregor fight as well. We'll see what happens with that. If he gets that fight, I'm sure he will take the Conor McGregor fight over a title shot. But we'll see. Let's see if Volkanovski is in any way, shape or form interested in a trilogy bout as well or not. And it will depend on UFC as well, whether they want to offer a trilogy bout to Holloway or not. I mean, how could you really deny this guy at this point? I don't know, but we'll see. And if I glance over the card quickly, then let me check. Oh yeah, Dilima had a quick knockout of Ben Rothwell. Then Felicia Spencer had a late TKO win against Leah Letson. I don't really want to go over that fight very in very much detail. Chaos Williams had a TKO win over Miguel Baeza as well. Miguel Baeza was not happy with the stoppage. He was protesting, but I thought that was a very fair stoppage. I thought he got hurt. I thought he definitely got hurt. And Song Yadong versus Julio Arce. I thought that was a very impressive performance from Song Yadong. You can see from the outset, Song Yadong has fast strikes. I mean, that guy has really fast hands and he throws kicks real fast. I mean, his speed is impressive, and you can see the way Julio Arce threw his punches versus how Song Yadong threw his combinations. It's almost like Arce was fighting in half speed. And I was really baffled by a lot of the choices that Arce made. It was an orthodox versus southpaw fight, so I was expecting Arce to establish his left straight. Instead, he kept going back to his southpaw jab against an orthodox fighter, and he wasn't even able to establish it properly, nor did he use it as a feint to line up his left hand or anything. He maybe barely threw one left hand, two left hands throughout the course of that fight, however long that lasted. And that was a baffling choice to me. And the fact that he did not go for body kicks on Song Yadong while he is the longer fighter, some of the choices that he made really baffled me. I mean, he is standing southpaw and Song Yadong is standing orthodox. He should be slamming that shin into Song Yadong's liver constantly. He is the longer guy. He can get out of the way faster. It's more difficult for Song Yadong to close the gap since he is the shorter guy. But none of that happened. Song Yadong was quickly able to close the distance. Julio Arce was insistent on establishing his southpaw jab against an orthodox fighter, which was a decision that does not make sense in any way, shape or form. But he kept going back to it. I don't understand why he wasn't able to establish his kicks, leg kicks, body kicks, head kicks, whatever. Song Yadong, on the other hand, slammed a couple of body kicks and his hands were fast. He was moving well. He was constantly trying to get the outside foot against Julio Arce. And one of the things about Julio Arce is that because he was trying to establish the southpaw jab, he was naturally walking inside of Song Yadong's foot. And that's a problematic thing. I mean, that helps Song Yadong to line up his right hand against Julio Arce better. I don't know what game plan they came up with, but this wasn't clearly the right one. And it was a one-sided fight. Song Yadong looked impressive. I mean, his knockout looked impressive. He knocked Julio Arce out with a combination of punches. And congratulations to Song Yadong. And I don't know Julio Arce what headspace he was in during that fight. I wasn't impressed with Julio Arce at all, but I was greatly impressed with Song Yadong. So I'll keep this discussion brief today. Like I said, guys, I was under the weather this whole week. That's why it took so long to come out. And I hope you guys enjoyed the fights as much as I did. I know next week Miesha Tate is going to fight Tate Vieira, is it? Yeah, Miesha Tate versus Tate Vieira. Miesha Tate looked impressive in her last fight. I mean, for someone coming off such a long layoff, 2 kids, I mean, she looks totally in shape. But she has very awkward striking. Tate Vieira has power though, so that could be problematic for her if Caitlin is able to land combinations on Miesha Tate. But one of the things she did well during her last fight was that despite her awkward footwork and awkward striking, and you don't really see Miesha Tate with long combinations, it's mostly a jab or a jab 1-2. But what she does well is that off of the jab or off of the 1-2, she would close the gap and get to the grappling range. She is a really good wrestler, so if she can implement that game, I don't know if she can implement a good top control game. She can probably win this fight, but Vieira has power, man. It's going to be interesting. I think because Vieira has been active over the last few years, and that's going to help her. But I can't be sure. Vieira hasn't been winning too many of her fights either. So that's that. And Miesha Tate, I would say, although she looked impressive in her last fight, her striking leaves a lot to be desired. And if she can implement a grappling heavy game against Vieira, there is 100% chance that she will win this fight. But I wouldn't count Vieira out yet. I think Vieira is going to win by knockout late in the third round. But we'll see. Miesha Tate can, flip the script completely and take this fight as well. So we'll see what happens this Sunday morning. For all the people who tuned in, thank you. And if you guys like my content, if you guys like my podcast, kindly share it with your friends. Give it a like. Subscribe to my channel. Click the bell icon for future notifications. Thank you.